Back again, back again. The champ is here. That's right. Loved by many, hated by few, respected by all, was second to none. Loved by many, hated by few, respected by all, was second to none. That's right. The best radio podcast from Como to the Congo. If you're in Fort Worth, you know where Como's at. And if you're part of the world, which clearly you are, because you're listening in on this show on fbrn.us, you should know where the Congo's at. You know where the Ukraine's at, right? You don't know where the Congo's at? Man, you better ask somebody. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to bring this more locally. You know, this whole thing that we're talking about in politics, we're going to bring this locally because we're going to bring it locally to Fort Worth, Texas. I was over in Fort Worth, spent a couple of days over in Fort Worth recently visiting the community, and one of the things that they're talking about in Fort Worth is the school board election for District 4, where Wallace Bridges is running to become the newest elected school board trustee, and we have him here on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to be here with the commission.
Oh, man, you got
I feel like I done elevated
I don't know. Where you came in, it was like, I said, I don't even know about this brother, man. I really don't know. But, so all of a sudden, you heard us the way we talked, the way we, you kind of like that, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I like the vibe and everything.
Yeah, you like that was it right there,
yes,
man.
Sir. Yes, sir.
So,
yes,
you know,
sir.
we got a couple of minutes. We're going to kick it for a little bit. You've already talked about certain things you liked about me, you know,
sir.
some of the things that I've talked about that I like about you. I like the fact you're running for school board trustee. In my elections, I ran for school board trustee over in Arlington.
Yes, sir.
So tell us about yourself and okay. You know, let's kick it for a little while and tell us about yourself and what's going on.
Thank you. First of all, I'm honored to be here in the presence of the commission. And my story is I'm originally from New Orleans, but I've been in Fort Worth for about 30 years. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, I've lived in historic Southside probably the last 25 years. And for those who don't know, that's Rosedale, Evans, that's the we call it the real neighborhood stuff. I am the president of Historic Southside Neighborhood Association, also the president of PTA. What brought me to that neighborhood, I used to work as a community organizer, and I was very fortunate. There were some strong African-American black professionals that lived in that neighborhood, and I just connected with them. I just loved their vibe. These were people who could have moved out the neighborhood like 5 times over, but they just had this incredible love for the community. Some of them were around when the neighborhood was at its strongest point. And some of them still believed that the neighborhood could get back to that place. And I caught what they call the bug. And the bug was their love for this community was so strong that I wound up getting my stake and say, you know what, my wife and I bought an older house up there, moved into the neighborhood. But with the beauty of these folks who came before me is that not only did they live in the neighborhood, they took their talents, whatever they had, their gifts, and say, okay, we're going to give it back. Even we may do it elsewhere, but the first place is going to be in this community here. And I started what they call volunteering at a lot of schools and stuff in the neighborhood, particularly starting with the elementary schools and stuff. And it was something I was seeing, man. It was so powerful, Commish. You know, walking to the school, just excitement that a lot of our kids were at. They were just, hey, Mr. Wallace, how you doing? And this, that, and the other. And they were excited to run over me and tell me the book they read about or tell me what they're learning or what they're doing. I'm like, oh, okay, I like that. That y'all really excited about school and stuff like that. But things began to change. I noticed that if I went from elementary to middle school, that excitement wasn't quite there. That hand didn't run up as fast. And then I started seeing when I went to the high schools, many of our kids have all but checked out. And that really frustrated me because the fact that when you start looking at the reading and math scores, where many of us are, that I knew the connection, and most of us know that, you know, even from back in the day, boy, if that boy don't get an education, I'm telling you, he's going to get caught in the system. Mm-hmm. We didn't even know the data on what that, but now we know for real if he doesn't make those connections that is for real in terms of what is happening and what we're seeing with many of our kids who are not connected academically get caught in what we call the school to prison pipeline. And to me, when I start looking at those numbers in terms of, some people say, well, 15% at grade level reading, I'm looking at that other percentage that's not there. what's going on with them. And I see that every day in the neighborhood, because we're a neighborhood that's still in transition. And because of my passion and my concern about community, that's why I got involved in this race, because I wanted to speak from a different angle. I wanted to speak from an angle from someone who lives in a community that when you see those numbers, we see it first. We see it first when kids are not connecting academically. We see it first. We see it by the corners that they hang out. We see it by the stores that they hang out in front of. We're seeing, because what's happening with the numbers now, we're seeing an uptick in crime with juvenile. And I don't want to seem like Notre Dame's, but these were things I talked about a year ago. But unfortunately, I just didn't get the traction. And it was almost as if everything has come to pass of what we're seeing now.
Now, you said a year ago. What happened last year?
A year ago, I ran for school board. Unfortunately, I did not make it. But these were the same. I was talking on the same issues, but it was a lot of, everything was built around, well, it's COVID as far as where we are. And I know on the front line, COVID did affect a lot of us, but that was not all in terms of what was going on, was not due to COVID. And we knew that in the community, and we knew there was a serious concern as to what was happening, and we wanted to raise those issues up and keep it in the forefront.
Now, Wallace Bridges, now when I was running for office, they always asked me, and I'm saying they always asked me, you know who they are, the same people asking you this probably, they say, well, what makes you qualified to run for office? Now, outside of you being at the PTA, I was a PTA president too, and it's like, well, okay, normally that should do it. You're PTA president, you run for office, that type of deal. They say, how far you get in school? Well, of course I can read and write. I filled out the application to be on the ballot. Talk to me.
Yes, sir. What makes me qualified, because I got a long history of not just talking about it from an academic perception of what's going on. I have a long history of doing things and being in the community and having a track record of thinking outside the box. It's one thing to say, well, you're just the PTA president. But I started a PTA at a school that has been existing for probably 60 years and never had a PTA. And
60 years and never had a PTA?
And they had never had a PTA. And I'm guessing the years. I know it's been around for a long time. But they never had a PTA program. And the perception was, well, they're not going, we can't get a lot of parents involved and stuff like that. And I've always had this out-of-the-box thinking with anything through my history about getting parents involved. After we established a PTA meeting, I think the first meeting we had like 2 or 3 people, and they're like, yeah, okay, like, no, that ain't gonna do it. Because I knew there were some things that we wanted to do, and we had to get buy-in from the parents, and that's always been my strength of doing things creatively. So one day I was walking outside the school commission, and I looked down. I don't know if you ever noticed when you go, like the cars that line up to pick up the kids. It's like 50 cars, literally lined around the corner. So I'm scratching my head. I'm going, who says we have to have the PTA meeting inside? Why don't we bring the microphone, the stand, and everything that we want to do? And we literally brought it up there, signed up that parents involved in the PTA. At the same time, we were using the PTA as an opportunity to get the number one thing that we wanted to do is get parents involved in the reading. And we were going to start a reading program, and we knew we had to get parents excited about it in order to get the kids excited. And we had a ready-made audience right there. So already we had defied what they say in terms of what could be done when it came to urban parents. And with many of our parents, I just think we just got to go about it a little different way, and we got to meet them where they're at when it comes to doing that.
How are the schools in Fort Worth these days?
Right now, we're having some major challenges.
Like what?
Well, when it comes to reading level, with reading and math scores, I think it was 24% at grade level that are at third graders are at grade level reading, and 19% grade level reading when it come to math scores. Those are just not acceptable. And we know that, and again, I don't want to be repetitive, that when our kids aren't making those connections, that what happens to those. But I think it's been a sort of a lackadaisic approach to it, because the mindset has always been, well, that's Southeast Forward, those kids come from the neighborhood, and in some ways we've kind of called it as far as accept, but we don't have a high expectation. And that's one of the things that that I want to do. Have high expectations, be accountable. I tell people, I say, hold me accountable. I would not ever accept these numbers as normal, and it's like, we have to change, and that comes what I call this culture change in terms of what we showed an example what happened, that when we changed the culture in the school, as to all of a sudden now, when we would say we were doing a reading program, that wasn't exactly the sweet, spicy thing to do, but we did it in a totally different, creative kind of way. One thing I know about our kids is they're creative, they're competitive. They're like, so we did something as simple as we said, for the top readers, we were gonna give $25. In third grade, $25. You're like, man, $25, Mr. Wallace? Yeah, for the top reader. And we partnered with the school. They created a Google Classroom where they can track what they were reading, and also they can kind of write about what they're reading. And what was interesting, we were doing it every 6 weeks. The first 6 weeks that we did it, it was more the high achiever. We're like, okay, don't get me wrong. That's great. We're glad that but it started something. Something started. There was this spark building because the principal was making the announcement. I would come to there, and every time I see a kid with a book or something in their hand, we wanted to let them know, hey, good job. Well, the second go round, the kids who were considered, behaviorally challenged, all of a sudden, whoa, wait a minute. Even the vice principal's going like, you're not going to believe so-and-so is involved in this. And they're really getting on to this. And some of those behaviorally challenged kids were in the top reading. Commission, when I knew we had something going, I was at the barbershop, not getting my hair cut, But
it's a nice hairstyle. I like your hairstyle.
I felt the vibe, though,
Thank
brother.
you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'm laying back, and the brother's just kind of trimming my beard around. And this little 8-year-old kid is on the side. And he's just like glaring down at me. And I turn to the side, and I go, oh, hey, how you doing? I'm reading, Mr. Wallace. I'm reading, Mr. Wallace. So to me, that spark that I was talking about, it was catching on. They were really feeling the excitement.
Well, that's great. You got them in the elementary school. How do you track them? How do you track them from elementary school to?
How do we track them? As for?
I mean, we can reach someone when they're young, and then life and society comes along, and by the time they get around to
interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
that was a power.
You got to be like Joe Clark.
Oh, I love that. That's good, brother.
Okay, go ahead.
Interesting that we knew it was a
Oh,
power.
wait, hold on. Let me talk. People at home. Joe Clark. I mean, we got some young folks there. Google the movie. Stand by.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, let's go back.
Okay. So we're just in conversation.
Show's also education.
Yes, sir. In conversation at I do volunteer work at Morningside Middle. And I'm telling them about that. I said, what would be the kind of things that would get the middle schools, and they said, hey, you know what? What if you threw in, Mr. Wallace, a pair of tennis shoes for the top reader or something like that? I said, word, because they said, that's something most of, we like tennis shoes, this, that, and that. And whatever it takes, it's a kind of a whatever it takes approach that we're actually in the process of having that kind of conversation. But the way these things work is that it starts that way. A few years ago, let me give you a good example, because I know where you're going with this, that when I ran a community center some years ago, we had about probably 150 to 200 kids at that community center. And one of the things we knew when we started this reading program, it's easy, you're right, easier to get the kids, the younger ones involved. But how do you start getting those teenagers? The first thing I said to them, I said, we're starting this reading program, and one of the older kids said something to me, I'll never forget it. He said, what you want? We're going to start acting white? I said, no, man, reading's not for white people, it's for everybody. But I said, we're going to create something. I said, we're going to create some excitement. We're going to, we had some little challenging things for them to do. And all of a sudden, they start getting involved. We had pep rallies. Everybody who read, we call off their name. And all of a sudden, because what I know about urban kids from my name, they want to be recognized. They want somebody to say, call their name out and stuff. So we were doing that on a regular basis. When I knew it was working, Commission, one of my parents had 3 teenagers. I was in of a pep rally on a Friday, and I said, all right, guys, we're going to turn that TV off this weekend, and we're going to read, man. I was like in the zone, kind of feeling the issue, and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, like it was like a Sunday or something, I get a call, and the mother says, Mr. Wallace, and it was like a real heavy tone boy, you tell those kids to turn the TV off? I was like, oh, man, I think I'm about to get chewed out by this, but in my mind, that's where I thought she was going. And she said, and I said, yeah, I'm trying to get them focused on. She said, thanks. They're all three of them sitting at the kitchen table, they're reading.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed that you gave your telephone number out to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Was this a family relative you did?
No. That was the norm in my connection and relationship with parents. Some of these kids are now adults now that have my phone. As I'm talking to people in the neighborhood, that's kind of what I do. I've been back there for 25 years. Everybody, pretty much knows me, and then, nothing has changed about who I am. I've been pretty consistent through the years.
All right. Angelo, I think it's time for us to go ahead and get to our first break for a little bit. Let's play some of our drops that we have. Let's focus in on some of our inter-house drops. I want to be correct because we have an education guy on there, and you'll say that wasn't the right word to use. So anyway, that being said, we'll be right back.
We're paused.
Who was that masked man? You mean you don't know? That wasn't no masked man. That was the commish. Saturdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on the Fishbowl Radio Network.
This is John Creuzot, your Democratic candidate for District Attorney for Dallas County. Thank you to the commish and Ed Gray and the Commish Radio Show.
All right, back again, Commish Radio Show, back again. We want to go ahead and get a lot in on this. We want to talk about improving student reading and math scores. How you going to do that? That's nice. You say you're going to do that. How? It's like me putting on out here, I'm going to land us on the moon. I don't have a clue. Tell me.
Well, it's always been my success in everything I did, and this is one of the things I've emphasized on. We've got to be creative in getting parents involved. I think that's that. And everything, the success I've had and what I've done, we've tied and got parents connected to that. You said, well, how do you do that? There's 18 schools within that District 4.
Where's District 4?
District 4 is Southeast Forward. I guess the starting boundaries, I want to say Miller. No, I'm not sorry. The 287 to the west. I'm sorry, to the east, 35 to the west, and it goes all the way down to Forest Hill. Okay. And so it's a fairly big district. And what we found out is that with talking to all the principals, teachers, educated students, there was a common thread that each one of them said to me. It was almost like they got together and had a conversation. And the one thing I kept hearing parents, these educators and teachers say that we're having trouble getting parents involved. And to me, that's my strength. And that's because let me tell you something. We have to show that parents that we respect them, number one, we value them. I did a listening session group some years ago, and something this parent said to me that I stick to it to the T and remember that. And in that, I said, why aren't parents coming to PTA meetings and things at the school? And they said, well, why should I come to be told how bad of a parent I am? What I've learned, Commish, is that even the most challenging parent, and I'll use this example because I've had them before, even a crackhead who's a parent, believe it or not, she wants something better for her kid. She may not know the steps on how to get that. Believe me, she wants something better for her kids. But when I'm talking about meeting people where they are, with not a judgmental spirit, but let them see that you're genuine. When I say parent engagement, I'm talking genuine, making those genuine connections, and it's still available. It's still, because I think there's a hunger. And in our community, too often there's these folks up here who talk down to our parents, so people tend to shut their ears. Here's a part two that I've learned as a parent. My first child I'll never forget that. He was, he's 35 now, but he was active. He was a 5-year-old that was just kind of all over the map, so to speak. And I remember when I would go to pick him up, he was in in kindergarten, and I could see every day I would go pick him up. I could see the teacher with him in her hand walking. Literally, you're supposed to go to a certain area to pick up the kids. She got him in her hand, walking to the car. And I'm like, why is she bringing him to the car? And come in, she go on and tell me every bad thing. Oh, he did this. Oh, he did this. Oh, he did this. And I'm just sitting there shaking my head. So I'm thinking this is the first day. I come back the second day, and it's the same repetitive thing. Third day, and then by the third day, I'm sitting there, whatever she's saying is just like, wah, 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 wah. I'm telling you this story because what happened for me as a parent, I shut down. Because my thought is, you couldn't find anything positive to tell me what's going on. You couldn't tell me anything. He sat down in the chair for 2 minutes straight. We want to commend Mr. Bridges. You got him to sit down for 2 minutes. I say that to say that too often, again, goes to that pyramid. When we talk to a lot of our parents, and we've got to change that. And I'm a firm believer in that. And again, I want you to remember this term, because I'm going to go back to what you said. Spark. It's a spark that you start. A spark that you start. Once you start a spark in the middle of where leaves are, what happens? You got yourself a flame. And sometimes all it takes is a little spark. That's what we do. That's what we've been doing. And I'm a firm believer that's what we're going to do. That little boy who stops me in the barber shop, that's a copy of that's a piece of the spark that at the school he got excited about something he heard. He's talking about all of his friends, and the same people who they don't normally see, who are in the school, who's an African-American man in the barbershop, in his community. He's excited. He's yelling at everybody, hey, I'm reading. That didn't happen. That wasn't the norm of what happened. It's those kind of things that we do. And when we build a trust with parents and say, you know what, we got to talk to your mom about this data. I went to a group to talk about the challenge that we had. It's about, oh God, I had a brain freeze, about where the numbers were when it comes to our kids. And the first thing they told me how they put this presentation together to present it before City Council, as far as where the numbers were, to present it before the school board, and they showed where the numbers was. And I said this simple question, I said, has anybody ever talked to parents about this to really let them know what the data means and how? And he kind of went, no, we hadn't. And I think that's one of the missing elements, that we've not spoken in a language that parents can understand the data and how it affects them. And that goes back to your original question, how do you make those changes? And I think that's the beginning of those. When we explain to grandma or Uncle Joe or grandpa or whoever is that as to what's going on, how it affects you, and really say, I need you to roll up your sleeves. And really, that's how we're going to make changes in these schools.
Okay, now you mentioned something about 76104 area, the code, the zip code 76104.
Correct.
Why is that significant?
Because it's considered what they call a food district. It's one of the most challenging communities economically in some people would say in the state of Texas. But with those challenges, there's some stories beyond that sometimes doesn't make the headline. There's a rich culture, rich history. And I talk about those folks when I moved in the neighborhood who were black professionals at the time when I moved in. You'd be shocked if I told you once upon a time in 76104, there was a millionaire that lived on Terrell Street. And when I tell that to kids, they're like, Mr. Wallace, you ain't no millionaire. Yeah, it was run with Bill Gooseneck McDonald that lived, Why did I use that? That lets them know the shoulders that they walk on. When we have career day, we want to make sure that when we're talking about things that most kids would not even know. A lot of kids who've gone to the downtown library in Fort Worth, there's this big, huge wing. It's called the Hazel Harvey Peace Library, and a big portrait of him. But guess what? That lady lived around the corner from the school that they go to. That lady was one of the people that mentored me and who could have moved out the neighborhood 10 times over. We want them to really, I want them to carry those names on.
So there were black professionals.
They were black professionals. They were educators. They were doctors. They were lawyers.
And black folk moved?
Yeah. I'm sorry?
And black folk moved?
Oh, yeah. Well, one of the challenges of what was happening at that time, like most urban cities across the country, that requires another show to talk about why they move. But a lot of folks, because
I'm more interested in why you didn't move.
because those people who came before me, they influenced me. It was a bug that they set inside me that one lady said, yeah, I'm never gonna be afraid of my people. I want to be here. And when I walk the streets, bruh, and it's me and my wife, and the kids look at me. My wife and I have been married 25 years. And when we're riding our bicycle, and me, my wife, and my 2 kids are going down Evans Avenue, whatever, they're looking, oh, wow. That's why I don't move. That's because I want them to see that there are positive black men who live in the community, who are fathers, and who still care about this community.
That's why I wanted to get that answer from you. I'm always interested in why people stay, not why people move. Because the only reason why people move is they want something better, so they say. But the only time they ever come back is when they want to get good barbecue or anything like that. So that being said,
yes,
let's move around to ensure our schools receive the support they deserve.
Yeah.
How?
Well, number one, when you look at the data and when you look at what the numbers are in terms of funding for our school, and I always use the example of Van Zanguin because that's one of the schools that I work with. And you take that school in comparison with a school outside of Tanglewood district, and because now they've taken the word.
Tanglewood?
Yeah.
Where's
that? In Norfolk, on the other side, and when you look at it in terms of the funding, and if you're trying to make it equal, it's insane in terms of what the challenges that most of those kids are dealing with who've experienced all kind of different types of trauma. It's different in terms of where the deficits that most of our kids are at. When you look at some of these schools that you may have one reading instructor there, and here you're looking at a school that may be at a level of 12 or 13% grade level reading. Sometimes there's some schools that are at single digit. You have to provide them more resources to be able to address the challenges. Because this is the philosophy I have, that is either we pay it now or pay it later. I saw this piece that they're called, it's a group that's focusing on, when you go into certain neighborhoods, they're called $1 million blocks. In other words, you can drive into certain neighborhoods, 76104 will be one, and why they call them $1 million blocks. For those who don't get connected to what they need academically, they get caught in the criminal justice system. And the money it costs to incarcerate them and to keep them on probation, all these other things, it can come up to $1 million. So if we think and look in terms of making sure and shifting, that's where I come from, making sure that they get the resources that they need. In talking to those 12 schools that I told you I visited, that's the biggest challenge, that many of them feel that they're not getting the proper resources, that they're not able to address some of the real needs that they're dealing with in the community. And I'm going to be a strong advocate to make sure that we get what we need, because getting other board members to understand that when if it's kids in Southeast Fort Worth they're not reading at grade level, it doesn't just affect.
It's true.
It affects the whole city. When I lived in New Orleans, there was an issue we were dealing with. It was at that time gang violence, murder. It was at the top of the scale. We were able to get suburban outside groups to recognize, yeah, you need to be involved in this, because when they choose to do whatever they do, they don't just contain in that one area. We also they move outside the area. And I think that's the advantage that I have in being very focused and getting others to understand how it affects a whole entire community.
Okay, let's talk about, we were talking about the ensure that schools receive the support they deserve. Now, these schools, you talk about reading, you've consistently said about reading. Do these schools have libraries that actually have books in them? And will Matt Krause help people take them out?
Okay. Yeah, they got libraries. I love that.
Thank you.
Now, and this is
halfway good at what I
it's a whole political atmosphere which is becoming totally insane. That even the Ruby Bridges, someone told me that Ruby Bridges is from the same town my dad was from, Tylertown, Mississippi. But somebody's found out something about this. Oh, that can't be. We got to take these books out.
So they're gonna take Ruby Bridges out?
There was a piece of taking that book out of the library. The one thing I'm learning, there's power, and this again, I'm not just running just to address reading and math scores. I'm running to be able to get parents engaged. And I mean, not this superficial engagement, I'll see you at the PTA and we're gone, but engaged to the point of understanding what's going on in the community. I want to emphasize on teaching parents how to understand what's happening and how it affects them. And by being engaged, that they can be involved and be a part of the solution, other than just, oh, okay, yeah, that they show them the role that they can play as well.
Okay, now I have your push card.
Yes, sir.
And you have said a proven grassroots community leader.
Yeah.
You spent your life advocating for the needs and well-being of youth across Fort Worth. Outside of the district that you live in, what have you done outside of that?
Outside the district that I live in, I've worked with other programs. I've worked with my Brother's Keeper, which is actually all throughout the whole city of Fort Worth. I worked for years for a program called Weed and Seed, which at that time, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept, was we worked with the police department to weed out crime, and the whole idea was to seed in program. I worked as a case manager focusing on homeless youth, and that was through ACH. That experience is something that, again, that will stick with me for a lifetime, because I've seen young people, for whatever reason, because of some struggles that may be going on at home, that they choose to they felt safer to live on the streets. And a part of my job was to find a parent, help them kind of reconnect. In other words, to really, sometimes it's educating a parent, no matter what the issue was. Is it that bad that you'd rather see your 15, 16, 17-year-old actually live on the streets? So a lot of that required mediating. A lot of that required letting young people know, for some who may have been a little bit older and we may not have had immediate housing, but what we did, we provided this place to remind them a sense of value, even though you're living on the streets. But a place, we called it a place where they can come together and get what we call, I don't know if you remember this term, USA, from the movie Boys in the, what is the name of that movie? Oh my God, with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith.
Bad Boys. Bad Boys.
Thank you. And the term, and I jokingly tell the kids that all the time, but in giving them that space that they could come and really kind of get a little bit of release with all the chaos and craziness. And I believe that all my life experiences that I've had, and I've worked with a program in New Orleans that focus on getting other groups to come into housing projects. You know, back in the day, housing, now most of them are pretty much torn down per se, but in New Orleans, the housing project was like a city inside a city. So I worked with, my job was to get suburban groups to come into the housing projects and really kind of make those connections with young people. But those experiences that I've had, that has helped me. When you look down that list of people and I challenge people to go on our Facebook page and see the kind of people that the coalition of people across the board who say, you know what, I'm with this guy. And I think that's really important to say that there are, many people who are not on the same page all the time, but they've connected to this one thing. We've got to get our reading scores up. We've got to get our math scores up. And I think that has been the thing that while we've been able to bring this group together, to have the Star Telegram to endorse our campaign, I'm not usually the kind of candidate that the Star Telegram endorse. But the one thing they said, that the fact that you have a proven track record as a grassroots leader and being consistent, a consistency that's worked through that community.
Outside of the Star Telegram, that's endorsed you? And I'm looking at it right now. This is not a I got you question because you possibly couldn't name everyone who's endorsed you because it's still growing day by day. Just give us a couple of them. I see Chris Nettles on here and Dr. Jared Williams is on here. Who else?
Chris Nettles, Leah King, who's with President of the United Way. Lorraine Miller, who's a well-known community. She's once upon a time worked at the White House, but again, she's one of those leaders that moved away, but has always been rooted in the neighborhood. Dr. Bell, who's amazing brother. Johnny Lewis, longtime community activist, who's actually one of the people that also mentored me. Geraldine Williams, Aisha Davis, who's who's exactly a state representative for school on the board for the school board. There's so many people right now. I'm almost going to have a brain freeze.
That's sort of like when you're a master of ceremonies at a program and you have to announce all of the important people.
Right.
And I always would hate that because it'd be like, all right, such and such and such and such, and then you start looking through the crowd and everything. And then if somebody didn't get recognized, whoa, they get mad. You didn't see me back there. I mean, you was hiding behind somebody. They had no opportunity to see you, man.
Yes,
so,
sir. Yes, sir.
So no, that wasn't I got you deal. That's why I said I didn't want to say like I got you on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because that's a very difficult deal to go through. How did your interview with the Star Telegram go? Obviously, you won the endorsement. How was it?
No, I thought it was great. I thought it was great because I tried to stay focused on the issues and the challenges.
So you came inside the studios then, or you?
No, actually, it was through Zoom.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Unfortunately, when I ran last time, I think that they did it that way.
Zoom. What do you think about the Zoom interviews? I don't like them, to be honest.
I've adapted because as the president of the Neighborhood Association, one of the things we were doing in person, but obviously in the concerns about COVID, we had to go through. We had to change and start everything done through Zoom, even from church. Everything done through Zoom, and I've adapted to it because now I'll tell you the plus is that. Hey, you got a meeting? You can be there in 2 minutes and get in front of the camera. You're good to go. Yeah, the challenge is I'm a flesh brother.
Me too. That's the reason why I like looking right at you.
I can feel the energy. I can feel your vibe.
I don't want to, divert any kind of eye contact. With me, it's like being a boxer. This is eyeball to eyeball.
Well,
get ready to go.
Funny story, real quick. That we've been on Zoom for 2 years, and the neighborhood association. We just had our first meeting actually about 2 weeks ago in person, and I said, "Wow, it's good to see you outside the box here, man."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It is. So, what was the hardest question they asked you?
What was the hardest question that the Star Telegram asked me?
No, never mind them. Let me get another question. You have New Orleans on here. You got your background is New Orleans, and this will be our last question before we go to the closing.
Yes, sir.
How has living in New Orleans, and how has it affected you personally to this day? And that goes with Katrina and everything else.
Well, it's funny, interesting you asked that question because I've been here 30 years. Because most people knew when they meet me, they didn't actually say, "Oh, you must be here from Katrina." I said, "No, I was here."
You were before that.
Many years before Katrina. I think in terms when I first came here, I left New Orleans. Just to give you an example, I think the murder rate, there was like 450 murders that happened in New Orleans, and they said that there was a crime wave going on in Fort Worth. And I go, "Oh wow, crime wave. What's going on?" And I think they had like 40 murders or something like that. I'm like, what? I mean, comparison that. Now, I love the culture of New Orleans, love the food, love the atmosphere, all of but at the time where I was, my kids were young, I said, I want something a little bit different. I came to Fort Worth, visited, and it was a match. I mean, for us where I was at the time, and I felt a good vibe, and eventually we wind up moving here. And it's totally different in terms of, it's like day and night in terms of two different, in terms of they say, the tale of two different cities, and that's an understatement, But New Orleans is New Orleans, but, this is my home. Like I said, I've lived here, Fort Worth, longer than I've lived anywhere. In my 63 years on this earth. You know, 30 of those years have been right here. I have actually 5 kids, one who lives in Florida, but 4 of my children are raised right here in this area.
Well, that's good. That makes you a Dallas Cowboy fan for
Oh,
sure.
no, you
All right, now let's get ready to go to a closing, Angelo. I got him on that one. So I've been waiting for,
Let's go,
for
bro.
45 minutes.
Let's go.
I got him. So let's go with the closing. And hey, tell us why we should elect you, Wallace Bridges, to be Fort Worth Independent School Board trustee for District 4. Go.
Number one, if you haven't figured anything about me right now, it's because my passion. I'm very passionate about these issues, not just from the fact of reading those issues. And most time people go to board meetings and they read the issues, and when they look at those data points and turn the page, I can't turn the page because that little boy that was in the barber shop that gave that story, I want to do everything that's in my power to make sure that he doesn't fall to be a part of the statistics. I have a long history of working in communities, and I think the challenges that we face right now is unlike anything that we've ever seen in my lifetime. And I think I come with the skill set and the experience and to be able to address those in an unconventional kind of way. Too often the district, they kind of have this little checklist when they do things. We're gonna do this, 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 and mine is the exact opposite. And I think that's why I've had the success I've had and been able to make those connections, because people read my vibe. They say, this brother's genuine. He's real. This is not some little numbers game. That's why, the number one reason, I have a proven track record of not just talking about issues, but doing something about it. And I believe, again, I'm gonna keep going back to that spark mentality, because people have said to me, well, it's too big, how are you gonna, it's the spark mentality that by starting something, people wanna be a part of something that's successful, and the energy grows from that. Because just that little thing that we started with the reading program, we seen the energy grow. And when I ran a community center several years ago and doing a higher gang violence, we said this was going to be the safe place. That we went through 3 years without having a fight, literally, let me underline that, without having a fight in that community center, because they brought into it. Because the one thing I know about young people, they want somewhere safe. The one thing I know about parents, they want good schools. I know from personal experience that what it's like when you're having a child and you have to make that decision, where am I going to send my kids? It becomes personal to me because I've had to kind of dabble with that. And you've got somebody who really cares and knows, who has kids who've gone through the school system and now still have kids going through the school system. And they're going to find that they have an advocate, and not just from the word advocate, but someone who is willing to roll up his sleeves, and someone who's going to say, look them in the eye and say, hold me accountable. But guess what? I'm going to hold you accountable as a parent. I'm going to hold you accountable as an administrator. I'm going to hold you accountable as a superintendent, because in that circle, we're all going to be holding each other accountable, and we think we're going to see the betterment of what can happen when that is done.
All right. All right, you just heard it here first here on the Commission Radio Show. You heard Wallace Bridges, who's wanting to be held accountable, and we are going to hold him accountable. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hold you accountable for tuning in to us next Saturday, where we'll have Rage, the play by Janelle Gray, who will be here, and also we'll have John Warren, who's running for re-election for Dallas County Clerk. He'll be here as well. We're going to hold everyone accountable because we're in all of this together. So stay tuned for more on the Commish Radio Show podcast. See you later.